we are making our way to the finish line now, and after this, we're just gonna lightly touch on cinematics and particle effects. So what we need to do now is having a way to attack the enemy. I also noticed that maybe there was too much of a space for the hitbox. I'm gonna make them smaller, so I'm gonna approach that first. I'm gonna go to our characters, slime, PPC slime. I'm gonna take that hitbox that we have there and I'm gonna make it very tiny. 0.2. Make sure that's touching there. I wanna be able to, maybe 0.3. I wanna be able to get close to it without dying. I'm gonna do the same thing for the skeleton. But for the skeleton, I think I'm gonna just make half. And I'm gonna maintain mine the way it is, because that's gonna be the length of the sword, or the attack, or the magical attack, whatever you wanna call. So let's see, let's take a look how that looks like. Yeah, it's way better. So I can still attack before he touches me. Maybe he's still working a little bit too fast, we can probably change that too. So I'm gonna go back here to the skeleton self, walk, and walk speed, I'm gonna make that half. And for the slime, I think that's 50. Yeah, I'm gonna put that to 50. Control Shift S, save everything, let's play again. I just wanna have some advantage as a player, so I can just hit, get back, hit, get back, without really dying. Hit, get back, hit, oop. Still gonna be challenging. Maybe I should increase my hitbox a little bit, to be honest. So let's do that too. I'm gonna increase in one axis. I'm gonna do this. So it's gonna be 1.5 in that axis. There you go. Compile, save. Let's see how that works. Toon. I'm just imagining. Toon. I got killed. So I do feel like it's a little bit more balanced. And that looks good for me. So the next thing we need to do is map something on our keyboard for the attack. I'm gonna go to my gameplay, input, and I'm gonna create another one of the input action. So I'm gonna go here. Oops. For some reason it's show up with the search, but if I go to input action, you might be able to see. AA, attack. And I can just save this. I don't need to do anything here, to be honest. What I need to do is go to this input mapping, add the attack functionality, and map. In this case, I'm going to do a spacebar for that. With that done, we just go back to our event graph in the hero. And what I need to do is make sure that I'm pushing there. Sorry, not pushing, pulling. So I'm going to say attack. And there you go. I'm going to try to align this. I'm going to expand this. And what we need to do is get our animation component. We're going to get animation instance. Oh my god, anim instance. There you go. It's the worst part of the process is creating this logic, to be honest with you. And then play animation, override with callbacks. When it clicks, not while it's holding, like when we're walking. And the sequence that I want, play a hero attack. I want to double check if that's the case. It should be, because it's showing there. But I think it's worth double checking. Yeah. And then it has a directional. Oh, one is tiny for some reason. Interesting. I'm gonna have to fix that in the sprite. So 0.2. There you go. Save. See, it was good that we checked. That would have been completely oversight. Overlook, not oversight. English is hard, folks. Not my first language. Everything else is fine. Cool. So we go back to this. So again, if I did everything right, I should be able to see that punch. I'm not. Why is that? Try to play animation override in the on existing slot, the full slot. Dun dun dun. I think I know exactly what I did. I'm asking to use the slot. It's telling me that the default slot is not non-existent. That's because I need to go to my animation blueprint. And between my state machine and my direction, I just need to type override and connect, compile and save. And if I did this correctly, every time I press the button that I trigger, I can do the punch. I can still walk and punch, which I think is not an issue. I don't want it to be locked. It's like a flying punch, and I'm dead. I'm gonna press play here really quick to show to you something. I can punch as much as I want, and if he kills me, I can still punch. Even though that punch looks like I'm begging for my life, it's essentially punching the punchy animation, punchy frame in that case, because we only have one sprite for that. So what I need to do in order to avoid me being able to beg or punch after death is essentially just doing the same thing that we did here. For the health, if it's low, cannot, whoopsie. Pressing weird angles on the keyboard causing weird problems. And if I do this, just organize to make it look very presentable. Compile, save, and press play again. I'm gonna put myself in harm's way for your enjoyment. There you go. Now I can press anything I want and it's not happening anything. That said, I did notice that the tiny trigger box, the hitbox, is probably way too small. So I'm actually gonna fix that too right now. I'm sorry that I went through this twice, but it's test until we figure out exactly how to work. I think I need to make it smaller like this, but I shouldn't make it vertically. So I'm just gonna open this thing here and I say this thing is 1 and this is 1. That seems like the correct way to set this up. And same thing for the skeleton. I'm gonna break the thing there, say 1, 1. Compile, save. Let's test it out. So if I'm here, yeah, I could definitely see I got hit. Way easier. And that's perfect. So moving on, we're gonna go to our where is it? We play a hero, attack, and what I want to do is add a notify track. While we're here, I'm also going to add a play particle effect. They're all in the same frame, so it doesn't matter where in that frame they are. So you don't need to stack them up. You can just put them side by side. We're going to create a particle effect for the attack, so just put it there for now. So now we go to our hero. Let's create a new function here. And I named that attack hitbox, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. This new function is attack hitbox. We're going to get the hitbox, get overlapping actors. So this is essentially saying get the hitbox of every overlapping actor. So there are several. For this, I'm going to go for each, reverse for each. I can already connect to execution like this. We are gonna apply damage, and then we need to specify exactly who what's causing the damage, how much damage, and who is causing it. So damage amount and the person doing it. Okay, let's make sure that we also filter this to be only the monsters. So if you click here, we're looking for monster, PPC. The way I don't simple on myself. And I don't hit myself when I'm attacking. Now let's connect to our array. And the amount of damage that it does is 1. So what I'm going to do now is save compile. I'm going to go and open my master monster. And what I need to do is when I'm hitting the enemy, I want it to stop moving. And in order to do that, it's pretty straightforward. We did this like 10 times already. We're going to get our AC health is alive. And if it's not alive, not Boolean, we're going to create a condition. And if that condition is true, you can play. If it's dead, you cannot play. That's essentially the way that we want to organize this. Straightforward. Compile, save. I've been using this a lot, been repeating this a lot. And every time we do it, I'm just doing this way so you understand exactly the logic. But I'm about to reuse even more, and just to save some time and to make it easier for me not to be copying and pasting this over and over. What I'm going to do is collapse this down. That's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to select all of this, right click, collapse the function, and for this function name, I'm going to say can move. So if this condition is clear, the actor can move or can proceed to do whatever. And you're going to be using this here too, by the way. So just gonna go and click inside. We can organize a little bit. The only thing now that if I go back, whoops, let's compile and save first. Okay, so already some problems there. This is not how I really wanted this to be displayed. I want it to be something that I can reuse on and off, and I don't want it to have to do this. So what I can do is just go back to this and select my function here and make sure that I set this to pure. There you go. Just trying to find it. And if I go back to my event graph, that is just a tiny node that I can reuse over and over. And you got rid of that alerts that we had there, which means, by the way, we can just get rid of this because we're using the same thing. So Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, we'll get there, compile, and save. And when I add more functionality to this, I can just go inside and add the functionality in here. Previously, I said it was okay for me that the character could walk and attack at the same time, but I think this is going to be very weird because it's sliding around. So what I'm going to do is just going to make a condition. So whenever I press the key that I'm pressing, in my case, is spacebar, and also map E to it, and I can move. While I'm attacking, I can only attack, not move. So that's going to be easier and more manageable to the game. And I think it's going to make more sense. So let's go do that. We're going to do this in the player hero. And we have set up this before like this, which is fine. I'm going to be reusing this anyway. So what I need to do is create a variable. We have none so far. So I'm going to say is attacking set if it is attacking. That's okay. If it's completed the attack or being hit or moving, that is not okay. Compile, save. But in order for this to work, I need to go to my movement and make another one of this. So I'm going to say get attacking, not Boolean. And here we have a thing that we need to do. If you use the blueprint, you know exactly what the solution would be. We only have one input for 2. So what I can do is just say int. That way it's this and this. And on this logic. Oop, I have a hard time selecting the nodes. There you go. And if you compile and save, the behavior is going to be a little bit different. If I press my attack, I cannot move. My attack is so short anyway, that I keep pressing and I keep just moving forward, but at least this way it functions a little bit better. One of the things that was bothering me a lot is when we were playing before, my hitbox, when intersecting with the character's hitbox, was actually taking damage, almost like if we were taking damage on my sword. I managed to fix this in an interesting way, so only when the actual hitbox of the creature hits me, I take a hit. My life is now 1, so I need to remember to do that. So what I did is, if I go to my PP hero, sorry, my master ZD actually, I created a new collision, okay, a new collision box, and in that collision box, I put the top of the body. In that collision box, I named damage box, which essentially is when it intersects with that, I take damage, and that's the same for the creature. When my attack intersects with this, that's when damage happens. You're gonna notice that on my collision settings for the damage box, I set up that with an interesting new collision channel, which is called damage hit. In order to do that, you actually need to go to Edit, Project Settings, Collisions, and you can create one here. Essentially just created something called damage hit. And when I put that in custom, I essentially negate everything else and just enable that one. I left my damage hitbox the same as overlap all dynamic. I didn't change that yet. I don't think I will need to. But in that way, I have one that takes hit and one that gives the hit. And that is also sent to every single other creature. So I'm going to do something here just to make it easier to us to see this. This is the enemy, so I'm just going to put the enemy there so it's a little bit more visual. Because I didn't even bother changing the sprites, but that is the same thing here that you can see. If I go to my collision here, it stays the same. If I go to my damage box, that's also the same. So I'm doing this as the master, so everything else inherits the settings from that. Cool, but that alone won't do what we need to do. So I need to go to my event graph on my monster, and I'm using an on component begin overlap. We did this before when we go to hitbox and we select on component begin overlap, so this shows up there. I'm casting to the player the damage that we created, which was 1. The only difference is that I added here. I just decided to put the damage box as the thing that needs to be overlapping, as a condition. So if you want to do this from scratch, I'm going to put here just as a reference. You're just going to go here and say damage box, because that's the thing that we want. And you can just do a get damage box equal to the other component. And if that's not the case, you just make a branch with that condition, connect that to true, compile and save. And now, if I did everything right, I should not die when my sword touches his other collisions, but if I walk into that one, I'm dead. And just to illustrate, there is also a damage box in this. I'm going to go hide, hidden in game. I'm going to disable it, compile save, so you can actually see when I press play. So they have their own damage, and we're going to be putting damage into that and making sure that those monsters disappear when that happen. And they have their own distance of damage. So if I get closer to that, boom, I'm dead. Which means now, if you want to, you can just go here into, oops, let's do that in the actual skeleton, BPC skeleton. Since it's inheriting all these things, you can actually go here, and if you want to, just make like crazy, right? Just for the sake of this argument, I'm gonna undo this after, but just to show to you that that's working 100%. So as soon as I walk in, boom, dead. So that way, it's way easier to understand where it's happening. I'm actually gonna leave the collision boxes in there because it's gonna allow us to really understand when I'm intersecting or not. I'm not entirely sure if this distance is the best distance, to be quite honest with you. I feel it is because they're gonna be following you, and the reason why they're not is because I did went here to my movement and I disabled the speed that they had. So if I go here back into my character movements and enable that back and press play, now you can see they're coming. So I think it's fine. I think this character has a good speed. I think when you have a bunch of slimes, like if I create a, oops, press F. If I create a bunch of them, like as many as I can, a whole horde, and maybe put a bunch of skeletons too. If I have a lot of this in the map, it starts to be very intimidating. So it just keep coming, man. Look at that, boom, that. Remember that I also have, so I cannot pass through them. So they actually, the capsule that they have is gonna block my character from moving. Right now, I'm one hit death, so let's fix that so you can see what I mean by that. I'm gonna go to my AC health, I'm gonna say my health is 100. So I can take a beating. And if I press play, like you can see, I cannot walk through them, which I think is cool because if I'm like this, I'm basically dead. So that adds a new complexity to the game that you kind of need to avoid the enemies in order to survive, which I think is pretty cool. Kind of gloss over this, but let me just show to you again. File, oops, sorry, edit, project settings. I didn't actually show to you how to create the collision thing, but if you go here, you can just go new object channel, you give a name, and you pick the kind of one that we're doing. We all talk about overlapping collision boxes to calculate if the creature or the player got hit or not. That's why I just give a name damage hit, and the type of behavior, the default response is overlap. So that's essentially where you create it. Should be straightforward. It's like not a lot of steps to create this. I'm happy. So let's continue. So now that we made the hit detection, we just want to make sure that this works. We're going to connect everything together with the notify track that we set up before. But you can see now, if I just attack, the slime stops coming. Essentially, it's dead. So what I did, I went to our character, player hero, the animation source. And remember, we set up this attack hitbox and the particle effect before. So that's what we're going to be using right now. We're going to take all the way to our blueprint, the BP hero. And what I did was create a variable, okay? And that variable, you can put any name. And what I did was just BPC, player hero, object reference, okay? And what I'm doing is, on my event grab, I'm pulling from event hit, I'm casting to the player hero. The only actor there is the player hero, and I'm sagging this. Okay, very straightforward, just connect the three of them. Then with this done, you notice there is a function here, receive notify attack hitbox. And all I did with that was getting the player hero, pulling from here and say attack hitbox, which is the name of the notify track that we created, and just connecting that to this function that we created here. This function was auto created when we select this thing here. Remember, we rename it, so you're gonna make sure that whatever name you have here, it's gonna show up here. And that should be all we need. If you want, you can just go to your AC health, and we can print from here and get the current health into there. It's just temporary. You're gonna delete that, okay? And you can set up your character health right here. So I'm gonna say, so let me just open this blueprint actually. I'm gonna go to my characters, slime, PPC slime, AC health. The health is set to 1 now, but I'm gonna set that to 10 so we can see that happening. And if I go play, you should be able to see in the top left the hits that we give. 1, 2, 3, and you can see that the life is decreasing. I can attack really fast, so maybe I do need to make the life of the characters bigger. So now that that happened, oh, he actually killed me, so we're gonna have to fix that too. But yeah, that creature is dead, can no longer walk around. It still gave me a little bit of damage, but if we just remove that creature as soon as they die, that won't be an issue. But you can see that at least that very basic mechanic, look, damaging and getting damage, is working.